everyone, and welcome back to the Shivering Mouse. I'm so excited to have you back here today. As you can see, I've been working away on my set a little bit. The pictures are compliments of my two nieces who colored these pictures the last time they were up here. I found them in between this and my last video, so I was able to add them to the studio, and I'm super excited. If you hear some messing around, as usual, the puppies have found some of their toys and they're kind of running around in and out here, so just kind of bear with me. Today's video we're going to talk about Expedition Everest, and I'm so excited to talk about it. You know me, anything that has to do with tea I'm excited about, and since this particular attraction is kind of centered all around tea, I'm pretty fired up. And of course there's a monster, and you know how I feel about monsters. They're fantastic. So this attraction on the Disney Go website reads as follows: careen through icy Himalayan peaks on a speeding train while avoiding the clutches of the mythic Yeti. What is a Yeti? Well, a Yeti is basically, like, around here we have lots of rumors and myths of Sasquatch. A Yeti is basically a winter Sasquatch. You know how rabbits, or certain species of rabbits, will turn white in the winter to disguise themselves? Think of a Sasquatch, and a Yeti is basically a snowy, whitey, wintry, furry version of that. Great, huh? So, this is a great attraction for kids, teens, tweens, or adults. So if you have one of those surly, angsty teens in your group who for some reason thinks that the popular kid at school is going to see him playing with Tinkerbell, so he better act too cool for this the whole time he's at Disney, this is a good ride for them because they're not going to feel, I don't know, I guess played down to. They're not going to feel like they're being treated like a child. This is a more adventurous ride. You have to be 44 inches tall, or 3 feet 3 inches, that's 112 centimeters tall or taller for this attraction. So you adults can make a pretty safe big kid case for this attraction. It does have steep drops, it goes through the dark, sudden stops, it goes backwards. This is a pretty adventurous ride. They had to invent a new ride and track system in order to be able to make it go in reverse. The closest thing they had to this before was in the Maelstrom, before it turned into a Frozen ride, how you would kind of go backwards part of the way through that ride because the trolls would tell you, "You will disappear, disappear." So if you're an older Disney fan and you haven't ridden this ride, but you have ridden the Maelstrom, kind of the same thing, except you're going backwards a lot faster and a lot farther, and you don't feel like you're going to get dumped out into the courtyard in the Norway Pavilion. So there. This attraction was dreamed up by Imagineer Joe Rohde, who is also the guy who had the idea for the Animal Kingdom in the first place. If you've seen any Disney videos or scoops on the Animal Kingdom park, Joe Rohde is the guy with the big old giant earring. There's actually kind of a story behind these. He gets a new kind of local, tribal, traditional style earring every time he goes to a new country and brings it home. He's then kind of put these all together like a charm bracelet for his big earring. He used to wear them all just on one ear, but it started to stretch his earlobe out too much, so now he kind of rotates it up. Anyway, he always says that it's funny that the most famous thing about him is actually his ear, and it is kind of how I recognize him, because everything else about him looks pretty normal, like a kind of guy you'd see at a bookstore, except for this one crazy earring. Joe Rohde came up with the story for this attraction, and basically what it is you are on a tea tour. And what this traditionally would be is that you would go up a mountain to the temple and that mountain, try their local tea, their custom blend, go down, around the mountain, up another mountain to another temple, and try it there. This would take weeks and weeks and weeks. But people didn't want you staying up in these mountains. They were forbidden, they were sacred, they are the property of the Yeti. And so the locals don't want people messing around up there. People tend to, get made dead. So, when the tour company that you're traveling with decides to make things quicker, simpler, and more efficient by putting a train through the mountains, having it go from temple to temple to speed this whole journey up, the locals caution them that this could be very dangerous. The company, however, does not take them seriously, is not super worried about the Yeti because, it's mythic. So, as you get on your train to go to the next temple to try your next tea, you have a run-in with the Yeti himself. He's torn up the tracks, he chases you down the tracks. It's pretty scary. I mean, he's a pretty big animatronic. He's the most advanced audio animatronic that Disney has created to date. And so it gets a little terrifying, and you end up getting really close to him, and you come to a bit of track that he's torn up, so you end up going backwards down the ride and turning around and eventually getting out, of course, in a gift shop, because it's still Disney, and you do survive your encounter with the Yeti, and it's a little terrifying, but it's super fun. I think it's cool that in keeping with the theming for this attraction, when you get on the ride and you go through the queue, it's one of the most beautiful queues I've ever seen. It's perfectly themed, and as you go through the kind of travel agency place, you go through a museum for the Yeti, and then you do go through a pretty authentic looking kind of temple situation. Like, this is one of your stops to try this tea blend for this particular temple, and so it's really cool how perfectly set up it is. You feel like you're in the Jungle Book, like a live action version of the Jungle Book. It's absolutely beautiful. I've mentioned before, one of my favorite parts of the Jungle Cruise is when you're going through the big temple with all of the tigers and snakes and stuff like that. This has that same kind of ancient temple feel to it, and it's absolutely gorgeous. I think they did a fantastic job on it. It's so beautiful. But there are, little signs and hints to the Yeti the whole way through, whether it's the Yeti Museum or different statues that kind of resemble the Yeti throughout that temple, things like that. So you are kind of getting him in the back of your mind before you even get on the attraction, and the queue just does so much to set the mood, much like the queue for the Tower of Terror, and it's gorgeous. I can't speak highly enough of it. It's absolutely beautiful. So, some stats. Everest is the tallest artificial mountain Disney has ever built. It stands at 199.5 feet tall. Now, if you remember from one of my earlier videos, I did tell you that according to Florida law, if a structure, I almost said an attraction, but really any structure is over 200 feet tall, they have to put one of those flashy little watch out airplane lights on the top of it. Disney always wants to avoid that because they find it a distraction. It takes you out of the illusion that you're in this incredible setting. Real mountains don't have the little flashy light on the top, so Disney tries to avoid that. So they're really towing the line on this one. They're literally 6 inches away from having to install this light. So, that's almost following the letter of the law, not the spirit, but I kind of like it. It's almost sassy, and I think it's really funny. This makes it the 18th mountain that Disney has built, so they've got a whole chain going on if they were all together, but they're not. It was opened officially on April 7, 2006, so it's been there a little while. Just a few months after it opened, however, they did have to kind of close the Yeti animatronic down. While being one of the most advanced audio animatronics Disney has ever built, he was kind of built almost like a 3D printer. Like, he is one structure, the mountain is another structure, and the train is another structure, but they were kind of built together. Even though they're 4 separate pieces, they're built around each other. And there was an issue with the concrete setting properly in the mountain itself. So after a couple months of the Yeti's swinging motion, he used to swipe at you and try to grab you, and a couple months of this started to actually crack the structure of the Yeti audio animatronic and perhaps of the mountain itself. I've heard rumors that the mountain itself was damaged. I've heard people say, no, it was not, that's just a rumor. So I'm going to leave it as a solid maybe. Maybe the mountain was damaged by this. So they had to put the Yeti into what they call B mode, or what other people call Disco Yeti. Disco Yeti means that Yeti is not actually moving, that motion is simulated by the use of a strobe light. So he doesn't actually move anymore. He used to move quite quickly and actually kind of swing at you in a even more realistic version of kind of the dinosaurs on the dinosaur attraction, how they actually feel pretty threatening. They move very quickly. This was supposed to be even more intense than that. I mean, it's intense enough that it almost brought a mountain down. So, I mean, hardcore, right? I wish I would have gotten to see this in its initial mode, but as I said, it was only a couple months, and I live more than 1,000 miles away from Disney, so I can't get down frequently enough that I was able to see it when it first came out. But I've seen videos, and it's incredibly intense. I don't know if I could have handled it, but I have seen it in disco mode, and even in disco mode, it's pretty intimidating. So, I don't know, it's kind of exciting. The point of this being, though, that if they ever did want to return the Yeti to B mode, or sorry, to A mode, he's in B mode, what they would have to do is actually tear apart the whole mountain, take his animatronic out, reset all of that concrete, repair any of the damage, put him back in, and then put the mountain back together, because again, the mountain was built around the Yeti sculpture, so there is no, you know, like, it's not like Haunted Mansion, ew, Bailey, it's not like Haunted Mansion where you can remove the roof. We're going to pretend that nothing gross is happening over here. Where you can just remove the roof and then remove some glass or whatever is damaged and then put the roof back on. This is one solid piece built around one other solid piece. So they would literally have to kind of take the mountain down to repair this Yeti, which is why, even though it was damaged in 2006, 2007, why the B-mode damaged Yeti is still there to this day, because to refurbish it would be an enormous undertaking, so they're gonna, you know, kind of wait as long as they can to figure out how they can do this. It's pretty rough, but at the same time, it's really cool that they were able to do it in the first place. Anything else? I think that's most of it, unless I have any other notes here. No, that's it. Okay. Well, I had fun talking about it. I'm super excited. Again, I almost wish I hadn't used a fast pass for this one, just because the queue is incredible, and I wish I could have taken more time to enjoy it. You don't hear me say that often. I'm not a big fan of queues, even now that they have more interactive queues. I mean, it's still a line, right? Right? The Haunted Mansion one's pretty cool. I hear the Peter Pan one's pretty cool, but I don't know. It's not super my thing. I'm not a big wait in line kind of girl. And so to find a queue like this one, or Tower of Terror, that is so immersive that you actually kind of feel like you're exploring a totally different environment. It's very rich and very beautiful. And I almost think next time I go, I may not want to get a fast pass for it, just so I can spend more time in the queue, because it's absolutely gorgeous. And yeah, definitely check out Expedition Everest if your kids are over the height requirement, because I can almost guarantee they'll love it or pee their pants. But probably love it. But it's absolutely amazing. So have a wonderful day. And again, if you want to support the program or win our monthly prize, you can contact me at patreon.com/shiveringmouse. I'm also on Pinterest and on Facebook and Twitter. Sorry if I'm spacing out a little bit. I've recorded this video 4 times now. Bailey. Dogs, man. They cause trouble. And on that note, have a wonderful weekend. I'll look forward to seeing you again next week, where we'll talk about more about the animal kingdom, and we will, you know, reach out to our next villain. Have a good one. Bailey. Have a good one, guys.